And welcome back to the Smart Tank Revolution, where we always kick out at 2. I am your host, Mr. Donnie Wonderful, flying somberly solo at the moment. Um, Today's date is March 15th, 2022. And if you're a longtime wrestling fan, you've heard the unfortunate news of the passing of Scott Hall, also known as Razor Ramon, in the 90s WWF era. And speaking with my colleague and messaging Mr. Joey Business today, we both decided that in honor of Scott Hall, we should add an entry to the essentials where we rank wrestlers based on two unique rating scales, one provided from Bret the Hitman Hart's book, My Real Life in the Cartoon World of Wrestling, and he's also referenced it in various interviews on a one to rating scale. Also, our Smart Tank Revolutions um, unique rating scale as well. The description for both are in the description box, so you can read up on it. But you know, I really just wanted to take a moment to really appreciate Scott Hall. In one of our recordings, in one of our episodes, I believe it could have even been fantasy booking, one of the WrestleManias. I believe Joey and I talk about the fact that Scott Hall was never world champion, even though he has the skills and had the skills, the size and everything, the look, everything was there. He could definitely could have delivered on it. But as Joey likes to point out too, Scott Hall was also very unselfish in a sense that, he put over people like Jericho and on Nitro and really understood being a good employee and also doing what's best for business. And I think he was really underrated in that sense. I think what him and Kevin Nash did in 96 when they jumped ship over to WCW really affected the pay of superstar wrestlers. I mean, even today, and I know that like the market has expanded and the dollars are exponentially higher. That Vince McMahon's a billionaire, Tony Khan, he has billionaire money, but I believe that wrestlers are being compensated on a superstar level. We get some of them, not all. I'm pretty sure that's the case, but I think that and Kevin Nash even alluded to that in his farewell post on Instagram and Twitter, that I think a lot of that has to do with the way Scott Hall and Kevin Nash both conducted themselves and did business back in the mid '90s. It was no longer like just the Hulk Hogan bulk contract. It really just kind of snowballed downhill to where now wrestlers that make more impacts get paid more. And I think they were really the pioneers of that. Thinking back to his Razor Ramon days, it's the first time I'd seen him, before I even knew who Mr. T was. I believe I had to be like really young, maybe about 7 or 8 when I seen Razor Ramon. But he had the Cuban gimmick with the gold chains and the toothpicks, one behind the ear, one in the mouth, and he really that look, man, and that's a part of the rankings and the ratings rather. But like my very first impression of Scott Hall as Razor Ramon, or just the presentation of Scott Hall himself, was a very opulent, very opulent look, very athletic. I mean, he was listed at 6'7", and when I got a chance to meet him, I believe that was about 7 years ago, at a big time wrestling show in Winslow, Maine. Uh, you know, the shoes I was wearing, I'm 6'4", but like with the shoes that I had to be wearing at that time, that gave me a little boost. gave me a little boost. So I'm about 6'5", and he was eye level with me, and I was thinking, man, like when he was in his prime, this is a big guy. This is like a big Rob Gronkowski tight end, guy, and he was lean, and that's kind of going into the ratings a little bit, but I say that to say he looked the part, performed the part, and even backstage played the part well. And Scott Hall was, had one of the most catchiest openings to any any in promo ever in just 2 words. I mean, when we say "Hey yo," who do you think about? And then, did you guys come here to see WCW, or did you come here to see the NWO? Another win for the good guys. And I thought that was, I always thought that was funny because as Razor Ramon, he was the bad guy, but there at WCW, the heel group, the heel takeover group, it was another win for the good guys. And I just think that's also another underestimated, stroke of genius that they had back then. The business was different. They weren't writing their promos. They just went out there, as far as I know. And just I'm gonna post a picture of yeah, that was 2015, where Sean Waltman, X Pac, um, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall came to Winslow, Maine. We set up in the back in the dressing room area. Was doing some media, doing some photography with my boy Dante Luna. Go check him out on YouTube. At Just search Dante Luna, Luna, and you'll see some great interviews there. But just being able to sit in the locker room and converse with those guys after, of course, they planned their spots and orchestrated their matches. Those are great memories. I even still tell to this day, of getting a chance to chat with Scott Hall and Sean Waltman and and Kevin Nash, and getting them to tell some nice Owen Hart stories, some funny Owen Hart stories. One in particular, what they used to do around 1995. I guess it was a growing thing where everyone wanted to get the Undertaker to break kayfabe, but back in that time, the Undertaker had long hair that covered his face. So Kevin was telling me how Owen Hart would do things to try to get the Undertaker to crack up, and you can tell he was laughing under the veil of his hair. But that's another topic, and that's another story. But like just being there and being amongst those guys as they spoke about their wrestling brethren was interesting. It's an experience that I'll never forget. But let's get into the essentials here. The rating of Scott Hall. Right. So I just had to make an adjustment to the mic. This isn't the best mic I'm using. I'm not in my workstation. I'm actually in the office during my lunchtime recording this, and I wanted to make sure that we did it because like this is a big deal, and I know it's not much, but like we still wanted to get a chance to honor one of our favorite superstars, professional wrestlers, in Scott Hall. So I wanted to make sure that I got this recorded so we can put it out, and we even Joey and I. Obviously, we go back and listen to our own stuff, but I kind of wanted to capture everything real time. It's still kind of surreal because like I grew up with him. I just feel like he's a part of the childhood. There's many a times where I played wrestling in the backyard with my friends and my buddies, and I was raising Ramon. And then just like the tweets and the posts, from Triple H and Ric Flair and Mick Foley, that there, if you guys watched Raw, I'm recording this, so it's Tuesday afternoon. If you guys watched Raw last night, and saw how Corey Graves was tearing up. Like, like I get it. It's kind of like I remember my parents when Michael Jackson died, or some of their like teen, I guess they call them like teen idols. But it's we lived in a world. I'm from Boston, the inner cities. I lived in a world where I watched wrestling religiously every Saturday and every pay-per-view. I guess we stole a lot of them with the black box, but I really wanted to experience that, and we did live vicariously through these guys that we saw on television. And a lot of times they say, you never want to meet your heroes because they could be disappointing. Like I mentioned earlier, like I met Scott Hall around 7 years ago, but I also met him when I was 10 years old. They did a show. There were house shows. They was called house shows at the time. They did a house show in Worcester, Mass. And he just happened to be walking through the crowd. He was being escorted, but walking through the crowd to go up to the lobby to take some photo ops, and saw me and another kid, and stopped to shake our hands and everything. And like I'll never forget it. He was wearing his red, his Razor Ramon. He was fully dressed, and like I remember saying, running back to my parents, saying, "Man, like it was just Razor Ramon." Like I remember his hands smelled like cologne, and his hands were huge. Like, but yeah, like I mean, I can go on and on and on about Scott Hall, man. I just always thought he was golden. I just always thought he was golden. And I know I probably said like 5 minutes ago we're gonna get started, but let's really really get started. So the rating criteria, we're gonna begin with Bret Hart's, that basically go from a scale from 1 to 10 on three categories: a wrestler's look, his promo ability, and his in-ring work. So we're going to begin with the wrestler's look on a scale of 1 to 10. His physique, his appearance, and his presentation. All of that was perfectly believable, even to the sense where I did not know that Scott Hall was a Caucasian man until, I want to say, about 2002 when they came back. So it was about 10 years I really thought this man was Cuban. And it wasn't until like the shoot interviews. This is about the birth of the shoot interviews, when everyone was technically exposing the business at this point, where I was able to hear. I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, I expected his name to be Sergio, his real name to be Sergio or Fabio. Is like, no, he's Scott Hall. Yeah, so I mean, like, I really believed it, and I guess like anyone that I have a nostalgic connection with is always going to rank pretty high, because the wrestlers look. We talk about their physique, and how they're built, but like it's also, as Joey expounded on, has a lot to do with like their what they wrestle in, and does it complement their gimmick if they have one. So I'm gonna give him a perfect 10 here. I believe that down to the gold. He said, the promo where he said, I got the gold around my neck and the most precious one around my waist. Everything fit him. Everything looked great. The toothpicks were an excellent prop. The toothpicks are his Jim Cornette tennis rackets, and it carried over. Scott Hall, as the outsider, had toothpicks. He kept that. He appeared on Nitro. I believe he had a toothpick. It was perfect. He wasn't even Razor Ramon anymore, but was able to carry that out on Nitro during the invasion angle to make us all believe that he was still a part of the WWF at the time. All have everything to do with his appearance and presentation. Perfect 10. The promo ability. Back then, where they had a lot more freedom to say what they want, they're pitched an idea and they just go out and they run with it. Razor Ramon, with an accent, a fake accent, was able to pull that off really well. I'm not gonna, give him the perfect 10 here, but I'm gonna give him an 8. I'm gonna give him an 8 because aside from the demons that he wrestled with, I'm not sure if that was still a work. There was a Nitro episode where I think at the time he and Nash were feuding, and that's when they did the split between black and white and red and black. And Scott Hall was supposed to have come out inebriated, and I'm pretty sure that was work. I don't think that WCW was insensitive at that time to put out a man if he's not capable of wrestling or performing. So, but like yeah, even the way he pulled that off, like, if I'm questioning whether or not it's a work or not, like that's really good. And I know that doesn't necessarily fall under promo ability, but there's a promotional not it's the more I think of it, like I know that that's more so in the acting, but in acting you're still cutting a promo to me. So let's move that up a little bit. I'll do 8.5. And then the in-ring work. Scott Hall, the Razor's Edge, the Outsider's Edge, great Intercontinental Champion, great matches with Shawn Michaels and Diesel, a great feud with Jeff Jarrett, and worked well with just about everybody. Worked well with Stone Cold at WrestleMania 17, and even the only reason why that match was considered underwhelming is because Stone Cold was supposed to wrestle Hulk Hogan, and that's the one that we all wanted to see. But I still don't have a problem with that match that he pulled off with Scott Hall. We knew who was going to win, yes, but Scott Hall could work, and I don't think anybody would take that away from him. Anybody. Scott Hall could definitely work. We can even go back to the was it AWA? I'm not. I can't remember the promotion, but he and Kurt Hennig being tag team champions. Go YouTube some of that stuff. Scott Hall has been around. He's been around the yard a long time, and he could really work. I'm going to give him. Oh, not even to. Come on, man! Like the ladder match at WrestleMania 10. I mean, Shawn Michaels is great, but Shawn Michaels needed a dance partner, and they did it again at SummerSlam '95. Not to mention that they had greater ladder matches on house shows. If you can hang with Shawn Michaels, and Shawn Michaels makes everyone look great, it's true. But if you can hang with Shawn Michaels, that says something. That says something a lot. I'm gonna give him a 10. He ranks really high on Bret Hart scale. And now we're gonna transition over to the Smart Tank Revolution scale, which is a tighter score ranking. Ours goes from 1 to 5, and it also judges 3 categories: the innovative effectiveness, as it says in the description box, the ability to work as a babyface or heel, like the classic matches, classic rivalries. I've mentioned quite a few already, and the defining and redefining moments. This is kind of like at least my portion of it is kind of like a tribute show. But the more I think of it, like even if Scott Hall didn't pass, if like he would still rank highly on all of these for me, if not knock him out of the park. I mean, the innovative effectiveness, his ability to work as a babyface or a heel. The first time I seen him as Razor Ramon, he was a heel. He wasn't even a bad one. If I'm not mistaken, he teamed up with Ric Flair at that the Survivor Series against I remember it was supposed to be Randy Savage and the Ultimate Warrior, but one ended up being Randy Savage and Kurt Hennig. But he was a heel. I remember in 1993 when he turned babyface. I remember when he won the Battle Royal. He was one of the last two that won the Battle Royal. Him and the model Rick Martel, and then they wrestled on I was about to say Nitro. They wrestled on Raw for the vacant at the time Intercontinental Championship. And as a babyface, he won. That was his first taste of WWF at the time, gold. And the crowd popped. We loved him. We just loved Razor Ramon. We loved that character. Loved him, even as Scott Hall. And during his transparency, like his him battling his demons. I don't think anybody wanted to see him fall to that. Like when he was working with DDP and DDP Yoga, every time I had a chance to see Scott Hall on camera, it was great. Every single time, you just love the man. Innovative effectiveness is a perfect 10. I'm sorry, perfect 5. The classic matches and classic rivalries, I named those earlier. I mean, there's a lot of them. Just him and Sean, IC belts. In the mid '90s, Razor Ramon versus Diesel, Razor Ramon versus Shawn Michaels. Those at the Intercontinental Tug of War matches were all great. All great. Classic matches, classic rivalries. And then we transition over to WCW, the whole takeover. I mean, just them as the outsiders. And the NWO when it was just 3 members versus the entire company. Come on. That changed wrestling. That's easy. Perfect 5. All right, we're at 10 here. And the defining and redefining moments is I'm going to give him yet another perfect 5. The career defining moments of a wrestler at the time, I have never seen a hostile takeover in wrestling. I know that it has been done in like New Japan before, and like I learned all that later, but in real time watching it, come on, man. Like the child in me or the preteen in me at the time, everything was sweet and for life, man. Like perfect 5. He knocks it out of the park with the Smart Tank rating scale. And again, not because of his unfortunate passing, he would have anyway, but it's just unfortunate that we had to make this video in tribute to him rather than praising him and giving him his flowers while he could smell them. But in a sense, I was able to do that when I met him once as a 10-year-old, and then as I was what, probably with like 29, 27-year-old back then. But yeah, man, Scott Hall, thank you for the memories, brother. Um, Thank you for being the original bad guy, and thank you all for listening. And I guess next we're gonna transition over to my partner, my partner in crime, Mr. Joey Business, as he's gonna run down his rankings on Scott Hall. Rest in peace, brother.
Welcome back to the Smart Tank Revolution, where we always kick out at 2. Tonight it's 2, not 2, because this is real life, ladies and gentlemen, and I am doing a very recent posthumous Smart Tank Revolution Essentials episode, and I'm dedicating it to the bad guy, the one, the only, Razor Ramon, Scott Hall. And yeah, like I said, this is real life, and not all these episodes are going to have that Jeff Hardy running to the ring, hearing his music, even though his brother's in peril type of energy. This one's a tough one. This one was hard. This wasn't easy. It's this one really tugs at the heartstrings. It's very fresh. For those who don't know, depending on when this is out, it will be out very shortly. Scott Hall passed away yesterday off life support. Yesterday, March 14th. Today's the 15th. And it's a tough one for me because I've always been a large fan of Scott Hall. As a matter of fact, our first episode of the Smart Tank Revolution podcast, we opened up with the greatest wrestlers to have never become world champion or reach that accolade in their, not just profession, but in their companies, in their respective companies, WWE, WWF, ECW, WCW, and so forth. And Scott Hall was easily number 1. Him and Mr. Perfect were, in my eyes, tied for number 1. And you can't argue with it. And now they're reunited again, and where they belong. And it's really tough. I know we're not here to be on a down note, but here to commemorate the man's life, but also commemorate his body of work and put in what he means to at least me, this interpreter's point of view. So, with that being said, like the other Smart Tank Revolution Essentials episodes, we are going to jump right into it. The first thing we're using Bret Hart's Autobiography's rating scale of what a professional wrestler is. That's part one, and then we throw in our Smart Tank spice and decide on what part two is, and we give you our take on what a professional wrestler is. And they're really interesting, to tell you the truth. There's some similarities, but there's also some different nuances for sure. So, for example, we go with the 1 to 10 scale on Bret Hart's, and then we go on a 1 to 5 scale on the Smart Tank STR1. So let's just get into it. Scott Hall, wrestler's look, scored from 1 to 10. Their physique, their appearance and presentation. 10. 10. I mean, how can you not? In any incarnation, Scott Hall in the NWO, Razor Ramon, you look at that guy. The catchphrase and the buzzword was always, he oozes machismo. He did. He absolutely did. 110%. He was believability in everything he did. Whether it was the Tony Montana type style vignettes or just the candidness of his friendship, real life friendship, at the Outsiders, Kevin Nash. So, yeah, I mean, believability, wrestler's look. This is an easy one. I mean, I've recorded a few of these now, and you know that I hem and haw over this particular nuance and this particular judgment criteria. And this one, there's a no-brainer. Scott Hall's a 10. A 10 for wrestling look. He looks like a wrestler. You believe it, you see it, and you go, oh yeah, that guy's a wrestler. I mean, he even had the coolest walk, like that you're coming out of an elevator style walk and you're just like really sliding through, just parting the crowd. Like it's just very, very, very cool. His physique, absolutely 10. I mean, was he the biggest guy? No, he's not Goldberg. No, he's not, Ryback, but who is Ryback? He's not those type of physiques. Brian Cage, the freakish physiques. But no, you look at him and you go, yeah, wrestler for sure. He can hang up there with the Hulk Hogan's, hang up there with the Stings, hang up there with the Mr. Perfects. All the other big physiques, the Undertaker, Kane, those type of body specimens. He absolutely hangs up there with those. Incredible. So yeah. Presentation, Jesus, I mean, it just goes right back. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. The perfect Ty Dillinger right there. There's really not much to say. I mean, I was a humongous Razor Ramon fan as a kid. I loved Razor Ramon. And when he left the WWE, WWF, so forth, I was pretty sad because we lost the bad guy. And just a great in-ring talent, great character, good wars, all kinds of stuff, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So yeah, no, definitely 10. Promo ability, here we go again. Am I going to say a 10? Well, let's see. What's the criteria? The effectiveness of performing a dialogue and monologue used to advance a storyline. So in other words, can you believe this guy or this girl on the microphone? What they're saying, does it back it up? Is it accurate? Like, if this wasn't non-kayfabe, and you can't see me doing air quotes, would you believe it? The whole point of wrestling, professional wrestling, is to suspend disbelief in a manner that gets the storyline across to the audience in a very effective and entertaining way. So if he's not a 10, he's most certainly a 9. And that's the number I'm going to give him. I can't just, give everything perfect because we're doing the time frame. I don't want to be accused of recency bias. I don't want to go back on this and then all of a sudden be like, yeah, you know what? Should have gave him a 9. I am going to give him a 9. It would have gave him a 9 even if he hadn't passed away. So he gets a 9. He gets an absolute 9. I mean, yeah. Um, his promos, he's good. He believes. He's got such character and such charisma to what he says. You know, there are guys, and I'll say it right out here, WCW mate right there, Bill Goldberg. You look at him, the guy is built like a brick shithouse, comes in, wrecks shit, leaves. On the mic, not so much. On the mic, he sometimes becomes a cartoon of himself. You know, this overabundance of man-powered gas burning testosterone. Almost to the point where you're like, yeah, Bill, I get it. That's why some of those people are just so much better suited not speaking. When they don't speak, you're like, oof, there's the key. Scott Hall, not the case. Scott Hall was fantastic in his role whenever he needed to speak, whenever he needed to get a point across, storyline or otherwise, vignette. He was great. He was absolutely believable. I mean, 110%. Yeah, I know I'm saying a 9. Well, I'm saying a 9 because for what his character mode of work was, he was almost the pinnacle of it. But there are other people who can cut better promos, and we're going to go on them on these lists eventually. But right now, no one's cracked that 10, I don't believe, for the promo. So yeah, he gets a 9 for me. In-ring work, geez. If we're talking Razor Ramon era, we're going to go with a 9. We're going to go with an absolute 9. I mean, he was stalwart the way he performed. He was absolutely incredible. I mean, no one, I will say this, he was a 9 in the ring for in-ring work, but he was a 10 with throwing a punch. I've never seen a punch, like a close-handed or an open-handed slap punch, thrown better than Scott Hall. And it wasn't a, he had to stomp the ground and punch and reel back and throw it like a slingshot. No, he just could snap it real well, snap it quick, and get that overarching motion, which really just connected with his opponent. And his punches were magnificent. His in-ring work is a 9 for me. I mean, you're talking his early WWF work. We're talking the early 90s, late mid 90s. A 9. I mean, there's nothing else you could give it, if not a 10. But I'm giving it a 9. I just think he's very innovative. He's very good at working certain style. Not even just working certain styles, working almost every style. He mixed very well with the big and the tall and the small. Like, really good with it. Like, he could wrestle a Giant or, a Paul White. And then he could wrestle a Rey Mysterio or a 1-2-3 Kid or, something of that nature. He was so good. Jericho. As a matter of fact, there's a real fascinating story that's been going around the internet that I did not know. And, us, we are the know. That's our tagline. Well, sometimes we don't. Sometimes there's a glitch in the matrix, people, and we took the wrong pill. But, there's a story going around that back in the WCW days, prior to being bought out by Vince McMahon, Jericho battled or wrestled Scott Hall on a Monday Nitro, and the booked finish was for Scott Hall to go over. But Scott Hall was like, nah, it's not going to do anything for me. He had already known and recognized his place in the wrestling pantheon. Like, he knew, hey, I've already got clout, and I don't really need to, soak it up anymore from these other guys. So at that point, Lionheart Chris Jericho, he gave him the win. He said, hey, just roll me up quickly on Nitro. Now, what I think is magnificent about that is it says a lot about the character of the man himself, not just the wrestling character, but the character of the man himself. It says a lot. It explains to you that this guy is a human being on every level, on every microcosm. He just understood the importance of working together with people. It is a business. You make money, the more people get over being, more popular. The more people that get popular, the more dance partners you have, the more opponents you have, the more feuds you're able to make, the more that the creative team is able to let go and flow and stretch their creative legs to give you more work, more steady work. He knew that, and he knew he could recognize the talent in Jericho. And then, my God, who can't recognize the talent in Jericho? That is one I can't wait to do. Chris Jericho is probably the word GOAT gets thrown around a lot, and other than Tom Brady, there really are no GOATs in my view. But Jericho is definitely one of them, for sure. But let's get it back to Scott Hall here. Yeah, so his in-ring work, I give it a 9 because he's just so versatile, so memorable, and just so good psychologically. So I have to give him that. Now, here's where we flip the script and we go on to the Smart Tank, the STR rankings with the 1 to 5s. And we have our own categories, which was really the brainchild of my wonderful co-host and partner and all-around best friend, Mr. Donnie Wonderful. Donnie came up with his attributes and, criteria that we're going to judge people by. Not judge people, but judge these wrestling characters and stars by. And innovative effectiveness. And it's scored from a 1 to a 5. And it's the ability to work as a babyface or a heel. This is an interesting one. So I always love this because you don't find a lot of people that are able to do both great. There's always one side that they're just much better at, clinging to. One side that they're better portraying than, the other side. It doesn't always work with certain wrestlers. And Scott Hall, I'm going to give him a 8 on this one because when he was Razor and he was hot and he was a face, he was on fire. He was good, but his work doesn't really change. He's the bad guy either way. You just love to cheer him at certain points. But when he's a heel, man, he is fucking on fire. He is great. Like, just kerosene. Yeah, so I mean, the ability to work. Of course, he's the ability to work. He's a consummate professional. He has the absolute ability to work. I think he works better as a heel than a face, especially when he's paired with Kevin Nash. I think when he's part of a group or a trio or a stable, he's much better and more effective. But he does have flashes of brilliance when he's by himself. I mean, his Razor work prior to WCW was just magnificent. So, and you can't tell me he wasn't one of the hottest things going. It's a wonder how he was let go. Not how he was let go, but how he was able to walk out the door without having everything thrown at him to keep him. So, yeah, I mean, I give him an 8. He's just really, really good at whatever character he's portraying, whatever side of the coin. Here we go. Classic matches and rivalry. Score from 1 to 10. I mean, score from 1 to 5. 5. 5. There's no question here. I'm sorry, and I said I gave him an 8. Scored to 1 to 5. Shows you where my brain is. So innovative effectiveness, the ability to work as a heel. I give him a 4. I'm sorry about that. Not 1 to 1 to 5. I gave him a 4. Donnie always says our bipolar booking. Oh, that's right. Our bipolar ratings. I just flipped it up on the fly. No, I gave him a 4 for the innovative effectiveness. For classic matches, classic rivalries, from a 1 to 5, I gave him a damn 5. 5. The ones I listed earlier. 1, 2, 3 kid from Raw. Bret and him at the Rumble. Him and Michaels, both ladder matches. Him and let me see. There's been a lot. I mean, if you want just plain kitschy fun, him and Stone Cold's feud. It was a fun feud. It was really an awkward one because everyone was like, oh, I thought Austin was going to be with Hogan. And we get The Rock with Scott Hall. But no, looking back in hindsight, I think we got the right pairing. The Rock and Hogan made magic, and Scott Hall and Austin did pretty well. They did really well, for the what they would need to carry. Unfortunately, Austin wasn't at his peak at that point and able to, probably take the Razor's edge. At that point, that was that weird time in wrestling for WWF, WWE, where McMahon had banned so many, devastating maneuvers What a maneuver. That devastating finishing moves. So yeah, I mean, just the other ones I listed though. Him against Jarrett. Him against Jarrett had some amazing wars. Um, so I mean, God, him and Chris Jericho, they work really well. Him and his tag team ability. I mean, classic matches, classic rivalries, the tag teams with the outsiders just running roughshod over WCW. You know, it doesn't get much better than that. They just got some great. Scott Hall's got some great highlight reel fuel for you guys to just go back and just comb over and feast your eyes on and give yourself a real treat visually because man was textbook. He was really, really good. He comes from that era of wrestling. Listen, I love Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash is one of the coolest dudes, but let's call a spade a spade. His in-ring work is not even on Scott Hall's level, nor was it ever. It never will be. And that's a testament to Scott Hall, how well he was. Redefining moments. So yeah, I gave him a 4 on that. Or what did I give him? I'm sorry, I gave him a 5. Jeez, I got to remember these things. This is what happens when you record at night. I gave him a 5. Classic redefining moments. You know what? I'm going to give him a 4 here. He just, God, he's had some moments. What was the bigger moment than showing up on WCW Nitro? One of the most worked, incredibly realistic angles in wrestling at that time, before the whole, dirt sheets and kayfabe and everyone knowing every single move a wrestler makes, what they had to eat and all that. Just incredible. And I don't mean just incredible. I like just incredible, but no, unbelievable the way they were committed to that storyline and the booking and how it made it seem so damn real, because it really was phenomenal the way they did it. I mean, if that was done today, I think it still would have been just as well. So, it was incredible in the most spectacular of ways. Um, the Outsiders is one of the most memorable things on television that I can remember from wrestling at a younger age. Because it had such a real feel to it. You really thought these guys were fired. I mean, they were fired. They were gone from WWE on their own accord. But you thought that like they were invading this promotion, that they were invading WCW. I mean, come on. You can't get bigger than that. And I would have to say that is the career redefining moment, is entering wrestling as a whole into this new era of pseudo realism where storylines blur lines, so to speak, and you're able to suspend disbelief, but not so far that it's Saturday morning cartoon-esque, that it's so entertaining. It's reality television before reality television became reality television, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm going to give him a 4 in that. And there's not much more that you can be saying about this. I'm still really taken back. I can't wait to watch some Scott Hall matches because this has got the juices flowing. It's got the memories kicking. And, I know people expected a miracle, and I half did myself, because Scott Hall had been here so many times that it almost becomes cliche that you think he's just going to kick out at 2. But again, this is life, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't always go that way. Sometimes you get the dusty finish, and sometimes you get the straightforward real world one. You get rolled up and schoolboyed. And unfortunately, this time we lost a great one. But remember, and another thing, another career-defining moment, I'm going to quote it right now. This isn't an in-ring moment, but this is a man's man moment. His Hall of Fame induction speech. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch it, because the last thing he says is that he realizes, and I'm going to paraphrase it, and I might butcher a little bit, so this is why you need to go and watch it, is that hard work pays off, dreams do come true, bad times don't last, but bad guys do. And, like Tony Montana said, you ain't never going to see a bad guy like this again. I guarantee you. And he's right. We never will. And thanks for the memory, Scott. Thank you for your dedication to your craft. Thank you for all the time that could have been spent elsewhere that you spent in giving it to us. And I only hope that you're rewarded in the great beyond. This has been the Smart Tank Essentials. I hope you've enjoyed it. And just remember, life is precious, folks. Take care.